I think that you guys have spent some quality time with your teams, and we'd love to hear what you guys are up to. So with that in mind, let's start with our team number one, Lisa Kay and Paul, who would like to give us a quick 5-minute max summary of what you guys have been up to.
Janae and I are going to handle that. I just need to get my screen set up here so that I've got my copy of the script in front of me. So it'll take me a couple seconds. And let's make sure, Janae, are you unmuted?
Janae just came into the room.
Okay, so let's give her time to catch her breath. Janae, you're on. Janae, let me know when you're ready and we'll dive into it.
Okay, straight off, huh?
You're on.
Okay. In a time when pandemic era challenges abound, we want to highlight successful teaching and learning stories. Our goal is to collect those stories, analyze them to identify the challenges, and then find solutions. We would also make those stories available to others, encourage scholarship, and foster numerous ways to produce positive results at local, regional, national, and global levels.
The approach we're taking is that we want to identify at least 5 communities on-site, online, or blended from different countries or online communities where we can document success stories by the end of 2022. We want to look for a diverse set of communities, including those with limited resources, so that we can show how their own creative approaches overcame barriers that have stopped others. Some examples of potential target groups that we're kicking around right now with no promise that this is where we'll go, but this is where we're dreaming. One might be a community of homeless people such as Tent City in Pensacola, Florida. Another one might be people who live in remote areas where they're constrained in terms of access to learning opportunities. A third might be an example from Indian country or from indigenous communities. Fourth might be children and the people that work with them in a foster care system. And finally, people benefiting from mental health care services.
Create a high impact project with concrete, positive results. We want to invite story contributions, document, record, and edit stories, engage in scholarship research opportunities to show the impact of collecting and sharing those stories, identify means such as toolkits, text, video, blogs, podcasts, and other platforms that are used for archiving those stories. We also want to outreach to encourage use of the stories. We want to develop ways to further encourage use of the stories by workshops, short courses for those who would benefit from adapting those stories into their own settings by using experiential learning. And we want to further leverage funding through grant writing and engagement of volunteers to help with the ongoing project. We would also like to consider engaging the EdTech vendors such as Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle for additional funding.
I give you the punchline of all this. Clearly, the initiative that we've been working on, Are We There Yet, over the last several months has been benefiting from volunteers and from collaboration. We want to continue that. If we got funding for this project, some of the things that we think could take us a lot further than we've already gone would be paying someone to create a way of archiving the stories and making them easily searchable and findable online, and also paying for some sort of tool to augment our story collection efforts, like an online video booth tool. So we're excited by what we've accomplished this morning. We're looking forward to fine tuning this and presenting it a final formal pitch along these lines tomorrow afternoon. And with the time remaining to us, if anybody has questions, we'd love to hear them so that will help us to make the best possible pitch tomorrow.
If anyone has questions, you can raise your hand in Zoom. We'll see that you've raised your hand and we can call on you to answer questions. No questions right now. So Paul, thank you very much. And we will move on to team number 2.
Hello.
Hi, Allison. What have you guys been up to?
Well, we've been up to a lot. So within the field of emerging credentials, there's an opportunity to design the dynamic new now to support humanization and democratization of learning that recognizes the student's whole authentic self, that empowers learners as builders of digital fluency and inclusion through credentials that demonstrate integrity through their data-driven and evidence-based backgrounds. So to that point, we are pitching a creation of an emerging credentials starter kit to help higher education find their place in the lifelong learning ecosystem. This would serve as a one-stop shop for audiences to learn more about designing sustainable credentialing systems that support learners throughout their entire lifetime. This includes tasks, collaborations, and resources for multiple audiences, including administrators, IT professionals, the registrar, faculty and learning designers, learners, and accreditors to offer support and guidance for their needs in their roles. This would include highlighting lifelong learning opportunities through case studies with industry partners that supplement and support the work happening in higher education that will be jumping off in our April Summit of Emerging Credentials and Future Employers. This will be a living resource that's driven by community engagement that also includes a planning document in which learners and institutions can share back their ideas for how they're developing their ecosystem for emerging credentials to support lifelong learners, get crowdsourced feedback, and then contribute back to the community to keep a growing library of documentation and case studies.
Fantastic. Thank you, Allison. Any questions for Allison? Just raise your hand in Zoom and we'll call on you to ask. Excellent. Okay, thank you so much, Allison. Moving on to team number 3, Maya and Emery. What have you guys been up to? Oh, we've got the timer. Let's see. Do we have anyone from team 3? All right, let's skip ahead to team 4 and we'll come back to team 3.
Sorry, we're joining a little bit late from team 4.
Oh, no worries.
Is there a prompt or something that we're going with here?
So we're just wanting to know a recap of what you guys have been up to today and presenting just a little summary of where you're at in your journey and where you'll start tomorrow.
For sure. Yeah. So we made some really good progress today on team 4 with the data-driven goal. Looking at a student-facing product that would enable them to make a better choice in terms of decision-making when it comes to higher education, using data in a new framework and related data model that would allow them to make a simplified choice and use both qualitative and quantitative aspects to kind of guarantee that somebody didn't maybe, like as an institution, game the system, for instance, and that those metrics somehow mean something, using maybe social media aspects or content that's provided from other students about the institution. So we have some good progress. We're working on some wireframing and talking about the model and the project phases thus far. And yeah, we're all really excited to push forward.
Fantastic. Anyone have questions for team number 4?
I have one.
Okay.
Oh, one would be, are you using it just for like traditional higher ed or other like vocational type options for students?
It's a great question. I think at the moment we've just been focusing on traditional higher ed, but I think that it'd be great to really expand to vocational and other types of educational opportunities that students have.
Fantastic. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to hustle back to team number 3, Maya and Emery. What have you guys been up to?
All right, we've had a long 3 hours, and so we are bringing you tomorrow the immersive cultural exchange coffee shop.
Coffee shop.
And yes, so it was amazing. We had a lot of different people with very diverse team, which I thoroughly enjoyed today. And with lots of interesting conversations. And so we're going to actually work on an immersive experience around developing a cultural competency We want people in the world to connect and understand each other. And we'll be looking and actually creating immersive experiences in an effort to bring them together.
Excellent. Very good.
Yes, indeed. Indeed, Tom, in that, I've been working for a long time on the idea of cafe culture, being European myself and yes, that is the idea, that it will bring up that, cafe culture where people can go and, it will be an exchange of ideas, but also learning about each other. And some other things that immersive can bridge and bring us together.
I mean, it was really
Yes.
good because our group was from all over the globe, all around the world. And so we were just like, we cannot do a solution that is Western centric or United States centric. We had to do something that reached out to the global community.
Love it. Excellent. I'm glad you guys had such great global representation in your team.
Yeah, and they have more to do tonight. We're going to be working on this evening and early
Ooh, you
tomorrow,
gave
even before
homework?
we get back. So yeah, there's more work to do. We're just dropping by for a few minutes here, and then we got to get back to
Yes.
work.
Fantastic. Well, any questions for Maya and Emery? No hands raised. Oh, very good. Sam's giving you a hard clap. Very good. Great job. All right. Let's hear from team 5. Lisa, what's going on with your team?
I'm going to actually pass it over to Barnaby because
All right.
tell us what's going on.
Did it get the short straw? Okay. So our major focus was to look at digital belonging and how we could go about doing that. To be honest, anything having to do with broadband, internet, community ended up with multiple routes that we explored fairly in detail, but we came back to the sense of what is belonging. It's that sense of community that's fostered not just by a dot on a map, but it's by this rich relationship, this network of relationships, and those that are reflected both in a local and in a virtual capacity. Many times within a community, we'll have individuals that we recognize as voices of trust, community champions, network navigators, promotoras, you name it, there's a name for it, but people that we look up to, that we recognize for their voice and authority, or their capacity and tenacity to be able to see them through and bring us together for a localized potluck, or for a play date, or for when times are down and someone's at the door to say, hey, I got you. So it was this sense, how does that then carry it out into this digital capacity? Because it's not enough to have broadband or internet service to your home, or to have services presented to you to say, here, use them. But it's more important to have that connection to those that are able to bring what's appropriate to you in the moment that it's needed. And the sense of recognizing those navigators as one of the crucial points of this broader scaling of social justice and of engagement, of empowerment, and of belonging that we want to spend and focus in on. So by looking at the importance that navigators have, by realizing that many live and thrive or have to work within a siloed capacity within their locality, within their community, within their geographic location, but by ensuring that we're building and scaling both a training course that provides them greater capacity, a networking space that allows for that development of rich, articulated relationship building that transcends whatever borders and state boundaries that someone might experience. And then by ensuring that doing that, you're able then to bring in immediate impact to each of their communities. So we also then described, if that's the broad space that we'd like to play in, then what would be a good first step? And the first good step would be to find established groups of navigators that are in communities where things just go, they go by like clockwork. So you know what you would normally expect, those who are working within the normal realms of just day-to-day struggle, and those that may have some significant challenges, so that we can look at, again, scaling of solutions that empower them all and bring them and unite them in effort. Lisa, did I miss anything? Or rest of my colleagues, did we miss anything?
So to that end, the project, the funding that we would be looking for is to help us roll out this course that is actually exists already, but that we're going, that Robin in our group has with the SUNY system. So we would tweak the course in order to deploy it in these in different areas that have newly acquired broadband or that have broadband, but in which the consumer of the broadband perhaps is not educated as to how they can take that broadband that they've newly received through, say, an affordable connectivity program, and how they can use that. The navigators will help them use that to make connections in their community.
And just to add, it's not that it's all on the navigators. The navigators are facilitators. They have values of inclusivity, you know, part of the training, but also so people can start helping each other, you know, that the community becomes teachers of each other.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Barnaby, Lisa, and Marilyn. We have a question from Allie. Can we unmute? Oh, there we
Yes.
go.
Thank you for the opportunity, Barnaby and Marilyn and Lisa. So I've been following you for the past few minutes. Unfortunately, I missed the first half, but the question is, are the navigators supposed to do any mentoring or coaching job as well? So like personalized coaching, individualized coaching at scale, or maybe in a local setting?
It was attempting to very much leverage the train the trainers model. So you could almost have, in essence, like super navigators that are working with other navigators to elevate their capacity and their experience within each of their locales. Again, many navigators work and reside within small siloed community bases without the ability to be able to connect with other navigators like them, who are also going through similar type issues.
Okay, so in a way, the follow-up question would be, I'm hearing that there is a Netflix model that is on demand. You provide content through these navigators to students, but then you want the navigators to somehow understand the context of the learner and feed them with the right piece of content given their context.
That's where the community comes into play.
Okay, and for this to scale, are you planning to use technology?
We'd have to.
We have to. Then what if we just add another dimension to this local navigators and make them global navigators? Doesn't matter where you're from, use technology, but if you match the context of the learner, just come in, do your service, and leave.
Very much so. Although there's times that knowing that if I reach next door, that person is someone that I tangibly recognize and trust. But once that individual that I trust says, and join this or this other group can just as well help you when I'm asleep or when I'm helping someone else out, I can't. You can just connect to this community of trusted navigators that are beyond that global navigator. They can then provide that service.
Can I add another dimension to it?
We're loving this. Are we? This is iteration. Yes, please
Sure.
go for it.
This is wonderful.
Add another actor to it. I'm a content provider from Japan, Okinawa. There is a brand in Peru who knows the local geography, local context. Now, the content from Japan comes into play. It's get branded, localized by this expert on the ground, and the content is delivered to the consumer in a contextual, localized, branded fashion, and it can be scaled. So we can have multiple actors. We can have voice actors, storytellers, content deliverers coming together to provide contextual content at scale and a global scale to consumers around the globe.
There was a sense of, if we were to follow it and establish a set of framework around community, around what navigators could use, then you would have a greater certainty of some the possibility that those type of objects and those type of interactions could happen. So, and not to just call it standardizing, but to call it an open source framework that others could reflect in that engagement.
Well, I just want to share that I'm working on this in this field for a while. I'd love to share more, talk more, learn more. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, Ali, tomorrow we're meeting at 8:30 in this little, it's the second day of the Shaping EDU grade. Team 5 we're expecting you. So please join us.
I'll try. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any other questions for any of the other teams? Excellent.